Beyond words, our souls collide in the rhythm where dreams reside. Beyond words, we touch the sky.
Welcome to the Beyond Words Deep Dive Sessions, an inspiring exploration of the book Beyond Words by Marcia and John.
Ready to become like conversational ninjas? In this deep dive, we're going to be talking about mastering those everyday conversations, taking them from meh to mind blown, and we're going to be doing that with some seriously cool conversational psychology. So are you ready?
I am so ready. Let's do it.
Awesome. So I'm so excited to have you here today.
Yeah, this is going to be fun.
Yeah, this is going to be great.
Yeah.
We're diving into how to make our conversations awesome.
Yes.
And we have got some really cool source material to help us today.
It's amazing how a few little,
Yeah.
like subtle shifts
Right.
can completely change the way we're connecting and communicating with other people.
Absolutely.
And the source material that we're going to be talking about today is packed with those little
Yes.
kind of insights.
And you know, I love actionable advice.
Yes.
This source material does not disappoint.
No, it does not.
It dives right into like the psychology
Yeah.
of how we actually process information,
Right.
which I think is really key when you're trying to get like a point across or
Yeah,
really make sure someone understands what you're trying to say.
absolutely. And it all starts with, I think, this idea of like structuring information effectively.
Okay.
And just think about it this way, like
Okay.
imagine you're giving someone like a tour of a new city.
Okay.
You wouldn't start by showing them all the back alleys and side streets
Right.
before revealing like the Eiffel Tower or Times Square.
That's a terrible tour.
Right.
That's a terrible tour guide.
Exactly.
Like nobody wants to wander around confused before you get to see the main attraction. You'd start with like the big picture,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
Like the layout of the city, the major landmarks.
Totally.
And then you would zoom in
Yeah.
on the details.
And that's essentially what up chunking and down chunking is
Okay.
in the source material.
So up chunky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is you're giving your listener like a mental roadmap.
Okay.
So you're starting with the big picture
Okay.
to give them context.
Got it.
And then you're guiding them down into the specifics.
So whether I'm like pitching you on my $1 million idea,
Right?
or I'm explaining to you how to make a new recipe, I need to remember foundation first,
Yes.
then build the walls, and then and only then
Then the roof.
can I put on the roof.
Exactly. And what's so fascinating about that, too, is that it's not even just for explaining things to other people. It's also like a really powerful tool for organizing our own thoughts.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Have you ever felt
yeah.
like your ideas were just like a jumbled mess?
Yes, like my brain is
Yeah.
a browser with 20 tabs open.
Exactly.
Yes.
And so this is a way to kind of
Oh my gosh.
bring order to the chaos.
I love that. Okay.
Alright.
So by consciously thinking about it this way,
Yeah.
we can communicate more clearly.
Yes.
And really make sure our message lands effectively.
Exactly. And sometimes to make that message really, really hit home,
Okay.
you need to shake things up a bit.
Okay.
And that's where pattern interrupts come in.
Ooh.
Or pattern breaks, as this source material calls it.
Pattern breaks.
Yeah.
This is where things, I think, get really, really interesting.
Yeah.
Because the source material compares pattern breaks
Yes.
to the way that like comedians use surprise and unexpected twists to make us laugh.
Yes. Think about a time when like a comedian caught you so off guard with a joke.
Okay.
You were like, what?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And in that moment of surprise, like your brain is so much more receptive
Yeah.
to whatever comes next because it's like
Oh.
jolted out of its usual thought patterns and thinking.
It's like you opened a window in your mind temporarily
Yeah.
and let in like a fresh breeze of new ideas.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that.
It's great.
But isn't that a little manipulative?
That's a great question. And the source material really emphasizes using this ethically
Okay.
because it's a tool,
Okay.
right?
Right.
And like any tool, it can be used for good or for bad.
Okay.
Used ethically, pattern breaks can be incredibly effective for helping people overcome limiting beliefs
Okay.
or negative thought loops that they might be stuck in.
Can you give me an example?
Yeah, so like imagine someone is really struggling with a fear of public speaking.
Okay.
A well-placed pattern break could be something as simple as asking them to like
Yes.
sing their presentation instead of like reciting it.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Right.
So instead of I'm terrified, it's wait, sing what?
Exactly. And in that moment of surprise,
Yeah.
they're more open to trying something new
Right.
that they might have otherwise been like, no way.
It's like that little thing that throws them off.
Exactly.
That's fascinating.
And that brings us to another really critical aspect of effective communication that this source material highlights,
Okay.
which is active listening.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
it's not just about what we say.
Right.
It's about how well we listen.
I am so guilty of not always being the best listener.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm like so busy thinking about
Yes.
what I'm going to say next
Totally.
that I'm like, I miss half of what the other person is saying.
That's like a trap I think we all fall into.
Right.
But this source material offers a really brilliant technique
Okay.
to kind of help us become more present and engaged listeners.
Okay. I like it already.
It's called the SL-NEW method.
SL method.
Yes, I like that.
It seems appropriate right
In our
now.
very fast-paced,
Fast-paced world.
yeah,
Could all use a little more sleep.
a little more slow for sure.
So how does it work?
So it's all about like taking a mindful pause
Okay.
before you respond and really kind of breaking down active listening into 4
Yeah.
simple steps.
Okay, what are they?
So it's stop,
Okay.
land, observe,
Okay.
and what's next.
Stop, land, observe. What's
Sorry.
next?
Yeah.
Yeah, break it down for me.
Okay, so stop is the first step.
Okay.
And I think arguably like the most crucial step.
Okay.
Instead of letting your mind race ahead to like what you want to say next,
Yes.
you consciously like hit the pause button,
Okay.
give yourself a moment to fully absorb what
Okay.
you've just heard.
Like you hit pause on the live recording
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you get to rewind and make sure you heard it right.
Exactly. And that's where land comes in.
Okay.
So after you've stopped,
Yeah.
you've listened,
Yeah.
you take a moment to like summarize what you've heard back
Right.
to the speaker.
So you're basically saying back to them.
Yes.
Okay, let me make sure I'm on the same page as you,
Exactly.
which I think is so validating as the speaker.
Absolutely.
Like, you're telling me you're hearing me.
Yes. And then observe.
Okay.
This is where you pay attention to not just the speaker's words,
Okay.
but also their nonverbal cues.
Okay.
So like, are they speaking really quickly and excitedly, or are they speaking slowly and thoughtfully?
Okay.
What is their body language telling you?
So you're like a conversational detective.
Yes.
You're looking for those subtle clues.
Exactly.
Okay.
I love that.
And then finally, what's next?
Okay.
Based on what you've heard, observed, processed.
What is the most appropriate way to move this conversation forward?
So that could be anything from like asking a clarifying question
Yes.
to like offering a new perspective to just acknowledging what they've said and giving them the space to continue.
It's so powerful
Yeah, that's great.
because it really shifts our focus from reactive responding to
Right.
really understanding
Right.
and engaging.
We get so caught up in wanting to like respond
Yeah.
that we forget to actually hear what the other
Right.
person is saying.
And one way I think to enhance that understanding even further
Okay.
is by making like a conscious shift
Okay.
in our language.
You mean like being mindful of
Yes.
the words that we're choosing?
Yes.
Okay.
Remember how we were talking about yes, but
Yes.
can feel very like adversarial?
Yeah.
This source material suggests a really interesting alternative.
Okay.
Replace it with interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you think about that?
That's so subtle. But I feel like it would completely change like the energy of the conversation. Because instead of being like, yeah, but you're wrong, it's like, I hear you, I see your point, and I'm
Yes.
curious to learn more.
Exactly. You're replacing conflict with curiosity.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so replace yes, but with interesting and
Yes. And as you're actively listening
okay.
and responding really thoughtfully, you kind of create this like virtuous cycle.
Oh, okay.
The more you demonstrate genuine interest and respect for
Yeah.
the other person and their perspective,
Yeah.
the more likely they are to reciprocate. And that's how you get a really deep and meaningful conversation.
It's like you're building a bridge
Yeah.
of understanding.
I love that.
Now, I'm wondering, are there certain types of questions we can ask
Yes.
to like deepen that understanding?
That is a great question.
Yeah.
And the source material talks about that.
Okay.
It highlights the importance of asking questions that challenge assumptions,
Yep.
that clarify meaning, and that really encourage like deeper thinking.
So we're not just staying on the surface.
Yeah.
We're like really diving deep.
Growing deep.
Can you give me an example? Can you give me an example?
Yeah, so let's say like a colleague is feeling really discouraged about a project,
Okay.
and they say something like, I'm just not cut out for this.
Right.
Instead of just jumping in with like reassurances, a more powerful approach would be to ask them like, what's leading you to feel that way right now?
Oh,
You know?
that's such a good question.
Yeah.
Because you're not dismissing their feelings,
Right.
but you're also not just like letting them wallow.
Exactly.
You're asking them to go deeper.
Yeah.
I like that.
And that can open up a much more like productive conversation
Right.
where you can actually uncover the root of the issue.
And potentially come up with solutions
Exactly.
maybe they hadn't thought of.
Right.
That's great.
Now, while asking the right questions is super important,
Okay.
this source material also highlights something that's often really overlooked in conversations.
What's that?
Silence.
Silence.
Yeah.
You mean like those awkward silences where everyone is just like
Not those silences, no.
looking at their shoes?
No, it's more about the intentional pauses.
Okay.
Like those moments of quiet reflection,
Yeah.
they can be so powerful in a conversation.
Okay. So it's not that we're like avoiding talking.
Right.
It's just that we're being more mindful
Yes.
about when we do talk.
Exactly. It gives both people a chance to kind of like
Oh.
process the information,
Yeah. Yeah.
gather their thoughts,
Okay.
and then formulate a more thoughtful response.
It's like that saying, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes the most profound things are said in silence.
I love that.
Yeah.
It can also be like a signal of respect,
Okay.
showing the other person you value their words enough to actually like give
Yeah.
them space
That's a good point.
to land.
Wow. This has been such a good deep dive. I
Yeah.
feel like this is a masterclass in communication.
It really is.
We've covered everything from structuring our information effectively
Yeah.
to like asking insightful questions
Yes.
to even embracing the power of silence.
Powerful stuff.
It really is. And it just goes to show that communication is so much more
Yes.
than just the words that we're saying.
It's about being present,
Yes.
engaged,
Yes.
genuinely interested in like understanding
Yeah.
the other person.
And creating a space
Exactly.
where ideas can flow and connections can really deepen.
Yes.
So as we wrap up here,
Yeah.
what's one key takeaway you hope our listeners will take from this deep dive?
I think just to remember that communication is a skill.
Okay.
And like any skill, it takes practice. And it's
Right.
something that we can constantly be improving on.
Love that.
Yeah.
So be patient with yourself, be open to learning, and don't be afraid to really experiment
That's exactly.
with these techniques and see what works for you.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
This was a really, really good conversation.
It was fun.
And for our listeners, remember, every conversation is an opportunity
yes.
for growth, for connection.
So go out there.
So go out there, embrace the art of conversation,
Yes.
and watch those relationships flourish.
I love it.
Thank you for listening. Give us a like and share your comments. Order the book via the link in the comments. Stay tuned for more.
Beyond words, our souls collide in the rhythm where dreams reside. Beyond words, we touch the sky. In this moment, you and I. Charismatic glow is pure and true. Every move you